You know how people always say finding a new job is a job in itself? Well, it's like someone hit the reset button and forgot to tell us the new rules. You've sent in some really interesting stuff about the job hunt articles, research, the works. I'm excited to dig into this because you're clearly thinking ahead of the curve. AI is everywhere, right? And the way it's impacting hiring is huge,
Uh,
which is definitely something that stood out in the materials you shared. So, in this deep dive, let's forget just playing the game. Let's figure out how to win, how to understand the systems that are in place so you can find the right role for you. And one thing that really jumps out from what you sent is this whole AI gatekeeper idea. The RoleCatcher Your Competitive Edge piece, it really lays it all out. Automated recruitment. It's like you're applying to an algorithm now, not a person.
it's a whole different ball game compared to even a few years ago. Used to be strong resume, maybe work your network a bit, you're good. Now, you might have an algorithm screening you before a human even sees your name.
No kidding. That's why it feels impossible sometimes. Like, no matter how good you are, if your resume doesn't have the magic words, it just disappears. Poof.
And it's not like there's a shortage of advice out there. This role catcher source, it mentions something crazy like 3,000 career guides, 14,000 online resources. I think it said over 100,000 practice interview questions. Honestly, it's kind of overwhelming, isn't it?
It really drives home the point that you have to be smart about it now. Targeted, strategic. We're talking, they said, 9 million employers in their global database, just them. That many employers, that much data. It means a generic resume just won't cut it.
It's like bringing a pool noodle to a sword fight. You need the right tools. And both RoleCatcher, a couple of the other things you sent, they mentioned tailoring your resume, your CV. Okay, cool, but how do you even know what they want? It's like trying to hit a moving target.
That's where this thing, job spec analysis, that can change everything. The role catcher, streamline your job search guide, they break it down really well. Basically, what if you could reverse engineer the job description itself? Like having a cheat sheet, right? Okay, now that is a skill I could have used a time or two, almost like X-ray vision, but for your career.
Kind of. It's all about breaking down that job description. Pinpoint the exact skills, the keywords, even just the qualifications the company wants. And it's not just about sounding impressive. It's about aligning with what the algorithm is looking for.
So it's almost like you have to have two conversations, right? One with the robot recruiter to even get in the door, then the real one with a human later.
Exactly. And this is actually where I think this whole approach is valuable in a bigger way, too. You're not just trying to cram yourself into any open role. It makes you slow down and think, is this even right for me? Focus on finding something that's a good fit.
Which is huge because who wants to waste time on applications that are going nowhere anyway?
Right. And that takes us to the next big thing. How do you use all this to actually make your application stand out?
Well, the RoleCatcher Ace Your Interviews guide, it spends a lot of time on that, doesn't it? How they help people prepare for interviews.
And it's massive because you could have the best resume, perfectly tailored.
Yeah.
But if you can't back it up when you're face-to-face, game over.
Right. And they have all those sample questions from all those career guides they have. The one for materials handlers. Some of those were really something, like describe your experience operating heavy machinery. Well, I guess it makes sense, but wow.
It shows how you can't just have generic answers anymore.
For sure. Or they had, can you describe a time you had to deal with a difficult coworker? You know, this stuff everyone really wants to know. Those are the ones that trip people up. Everyone preps for tell me your strengths, but this is real life.
And that's why practicing getting feedback, that's so important now.
Which, and I'm not trying to make this a role catcher commercial, but that is something they say their AI can do. Analyze your answers and coach you. Kind of wild when you think about it.
It shows you how tech can work for you, not against you. And it's interesting, if you go back to that materials handler guide, they were talking about how important those skills are long-term. Even in a field that seems, I don't know, hands-on. The skills you learn figuring this tech stuff out, those are valuable no matter what.
Okay, so we've got robot recruiters, X-ray vision for job descriptions, AI interview coaches. At what point do we just say forget it and become beach bums?
And it's not even just about getting hired, is it? It's about, okay, I got the job, now what? How do I actually do well, build a career? That materials handler guide you sent, they even talked about how technology is changing that field. Automation, robots, the whole 9 yards.
It's kind of funny, right? We're using all this tech to even get hired, and then that same tech is like, oh, by the way, your job might be different now. It's a lot.
It's a whole technological revolution, and it's happening everywhere you look. And to stay ahead of it all, you got to be able to adapt, learn new things, always be looking for how to add value.
So less about, trying to outsmart the robots and more about how do we work with them?
Exactly. And that's where those human skills, they become even more important. Yeah, a robot might be able to do the same task over and over, but can it come up with a new idea? Think critically. That emotional intelligence stuff, working with a team, robots aren't there yet.
It makes you appreciate what makes us human, you know? It's like, for all this talk about AI, behind all these algorithms and systems, there's still a person making a decision somewhere.
And that person, they want to see you're not just some robot yourself, not just skills and keywords on a resume. They're looking for someone who's passionate, driven, who can bring something unique to the table.
100%. So we've got the tailored resumes, we're acing these AI interviews, remembering the human element. But let's get practical. Someone's listening right now thinking, okay, what do I do? What's step one?
I'm glad you asked that. First thing, don't skim past the research part. Seriously. That RoleCatcher Your Competitive Edge thing, they mention all those guides, all those employers, for a reason. 3,000 guides.
Yeah.
9 million employers in their database. That's not an accident.
Yeah, I mean, 3,000 career guides. That's a lot of reading. How do you even choose?
It's about focus. Don't just fire off your resume to every job posting you see. Slow down. Do your homework. Which companies seem interesting? Which industries? Figure out what roles actually speak to you, what you want to do, not just what's out there.
Because finding the right job is way better than just any job, right?
100%. Once you've got some targets, then you can use those job spec analysis tools to get inside their heads. What skills are they mentioning? What specific experience? Even just the words they're using.
It's like they say, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But maybe now it's more like, it's not just what you know, it's how you explain it. So both the robots and the humans get it.
Love that. And don't be afraid to get creative with it. Can you volunteer somewhere to use those skills they want? Online course, even starting a blog, building a portfolio. Show, don't tell.
No, don't tell, exactly.
And then those interviews. Practice. Even if you don't have some fancy AI coach rehearsing your answers, it makes a huge difference.
I've even heard of people recording themselves. Might feel weird, but seeing how you come across, it's eye-opening.
Self-awareness is key. And remember, an interview isn't just them grilling you. It's your chance to ask them questions. See if they're a good fit for you.
Easy to forget that. We're so busy trying to impress them, we forget it goes both ways.
Exactly. And speaking of both ways, remember networking. Online stuff like that network thing on RoleCatcher, it's useful, but nothing beats actually talking to people. Even if it's just on video chat these days.
Because you can't replace that human connection.
You got it. Going to events, reaching out to people on LinkedIn just to chat, joining those professional groups. The more you put yourself out there, actually connect with people, the more opportunities will come your way.
So it's about building actual relationships, not just, hey, I need a job. It's that it's who you know thing again. But for real, where you both benefit from knowing each other.
And remember, networking isn't just asking for favors. It's offering value, being a good listener.
So it's a long game, this whole thing. Building relationships, learning new things, always adapting.
You got it. And honestly, I think that's empowering. Yeah, it's competitive out there. But with the right tools, the right mindset, you can absolutely find the right job for you.
It's like we found a secret level or something. Like at first you think you got to cheat the system, but it's really more about, learning the rules of the game and using them to your advantage.
Totally. And just like you level up in those games, right?
Yeah.
The job market, it's the same. You got to keep learning new skills if you want to get anywhere.
Which reminds me, something else from those materials you sent. That career compass thing RoleCatcher has. That was interesting. It's like they're saying, we get it, this is a lot, we're here to help.
Yeah, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, it changes so fast. What worked a few years ago, it might not work now. And what works now, who knows about next year.
So you can't just learn one thing and be done. Gotta always be learning. Adding new tools to your mental toolbox.
Exactly. And that's where this whole AI thing, tech in general, gets exciting. It's easy to freak out, think robots are taking over. But what if it's an opportunity? A chance to learn new stuff, even reinvent yourself.
Instead of being scared of the robots, we should be learning how to work with them, right?
That's it. Because the jobs of the future, it's going to be both tech skills and those things that make us human.
So like 1 minute you're driving a forklift, next minute you're working with engineers, building the next robot.
Right. And that's why those human skills, they're more important than ever. Robots aren't creative yet. They can't think for themselves, solve weird problems, communication, empathy, all that. That's what makes us different.
And those are the things that'll make you stand out no matter what the job market looks like, no matter how fancy the tech gets.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So anyone listening who's feeling lost in the job hunt,
Mhm.
you have something valuable to offer. Seriously.
Yeah.
Experience, skills, all that. A robot can't replace that.
It's all about figuring out how to get that across to the robots and the humans making those decisions.
Find that sweet spot where what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and what the world needs all come together.
And hey, maybe one day you'll be the one designing the AI that helps other people find their dream jobs.
There you go. The future's wide open, you know.
Yeah.
Only limit is what we can imagine.
I like that. On that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive.
We did it. And we covered a lot of ground. How the job hunt is different now, how important those human connections still are, even with all this tech.
One thing I really hope people take away from this, you're not alone.
There are resources out there, people who want to help. And there's a place for you in this whole work world, absolutely.
So go for it. Don't give up. Always be learning. That's the key. This has been The Deep Dive, helping you explore these fascinating topics one at a time. Until next time.